record right away.
Right.
Boom, bang, boom. Sorry. Here, let me just welcome to the Publishing Persuasion. Let me get this out of the way. I'm Angela Montoya. I am here with Melanie Schubert. She is here in a mesh masterpiece. She's showing the goods today. Melanie, she's got a cool hat in the background.
That's the Morgan hat.
Oh, okay. Looks, in your background, it looks very Australian.
It does. It looks like an akubra. I thought that when I bought it, I was like, at a glance, you might think it's an akubra, but with the coat and the whole everything, I mean, it basically is, isn't it? The one on the cover, it kind of is an akubra.
Yeah, I don't know what that word is, but I'm gonna just go ahead and
Isn't
say
that one?
I
don't know. I feel like that's the Aussie that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I didn't know it had a name. I just call it like a millennial hat.
I don't think the felt hat is not known as an akubra, but millennials will be shocked to learn that they have in fact been tricked into sporting a classic Aussie akubra, which it's so funny. I've said that word like 5 times now and not for like 30 years. It's not a word I use either. And now I'm like, is it even that word?
It is now. You've met your akubra quota for a lifetime.
I do believe I have. But nothing can compare to your background today, which I'm living for. I feel like it should just be like this all the time.
Yeah, I would live happily in a haunted house. Not really, but like I will live in a fake one is what I mean.
Yeah.
I got little bones here, wait, where's my hand going? Anyway, I've got a
Yeah, good. Shangela, look at her go.
Yeah, look at she is now part of a cemetery.
She's looking great. She's looking green.
I told you she is doing okay. You didn't believe me. And I told you she's doing great. Shangela is thriving.
I think she had fear that she was about to be tossed out because you replaced her with that thing behind her. And so she was like, fuck, she just grew. She grew. She panic grew. Poor thing.
She panic grew. And, maybe that's how I need to start parenting my children as well. Well, how are you, Melanie?
Yeah, good. I am not ahead of you in revision race because I stumbled upon a K-drama. Well, I say stumbled upon, that's a lie. I reached the point where I'd watched enough human intrigue docos. It was getting depressing, although I love a good cult doco. I was like, I need a new K-drama. I was like, oh, but I just want something good. I just want something that's just going to hook in and not let go. And I was like, well, who would know? Susan would know.
Yes.
So I was to DM her, but before I did, I like went onto her page and I saw she had a story highlight of her favorite K-dramas. I was like, well, here it is. Susan, you're listening. Thank you in advance. And also, like, I'm a bit afraid because the one I have picked is it's Happiness. It's don't let the title fool you. Happiness is like it's like almost a pun of a title because it's basically a zombie movie, but which I would normally not do. It is a bit too scary for me. I am not gonna lie, but the way she described it and the way it's pitched on Netflix, like the sample, it almost, I was like, okay, it's like kind of vampires, but vampires that can go evil, like really evil.
Okay.
So that was how it was pitched in the snippet they show you, because they're not always these wild, attacky beasts, they can go back to like human and normal in between lapses. But I tell you what, I have binged 6 episodes in 2 days. Like it grabbed its hooky little claws into me in just the way I want. Because I watched a bit and I was like, nah, it's too scary for me. I'm going to have nightmares because I'm that person. Because it is a bit gory, like fair warning if you want to watch it. There is those gory. And And it does that kind of like old school horror thing of like the music build up and then it's like
I could see your shoulder, so it didn't. But it did what it needed to do.
You know what I'm talking about though? But because it's that old school type horror, I'm able to preempt the parts that are going to be really bloody and just, watch through my fingers, which I do. I am that person. But the story is so good, and essentially it's like a rom-com in a lot of ways.
Yes. Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Is there romance? Okay.
And I was thinking of you the whole way through, like you are gonna live for this like slow but deep burn romance. Like I just know you're gonna gobble it up. Like, so I think brave the gore that is there because most of it is storyline.
Yeah.
Did
you watch the Squid Games?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. This is not as gory as that.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
okay. I can handle.
Yeah, but because like the humans like look scary, I always struggle with like humans that look scary and like fucked up in the face and whatever. I don't like looking at like their eyes are all like, wonky and, scary. But for this, I'll do it. And it's not about trying to frighten you specifically. It's just, I cannot rave about it enough. So thank you, Susan, for I would also put it in my top 10 K-dramas already.
Wow.
That's how much I love it. It seriously grabs you. And that's what happened. I watched half. I was like, it's probably a bit too gory for me. And I went and walked the dog and I was just like, could not stop thinking about it. I was like, I have to know what happens next.
Yes.
So that's been my life for the last 2 years.
And anytime I hear the word happiness, I just hear happiness.
Well, that is the true happiness.
anytime someone says happiness, I just say happiness.
Hey, I'm going to admit that I don't know why. Why are we like this? But I'm the same. Was there something? Was there a movie or something?
I feel like this was a Jessica Parra moment, maybe.
It was a Jessica Parra moment.
Yeah.
She's ruined or blessed the word for us forever.
Yeah, I feel like this was a Parra thing for sure. Happiness. Yeah, no, that was her. That was her.
You can't unhear it.
No, remember, listeners, happiness. Inappropriate. This is
an explicit episode. I have to mark at least half of our episodes explicit because we're both potty mouths. And
that is so funny.
I love it. Well, they recommend you do that because they're like, if somebody clicks onto your writing podcast and it's not marked explicit and they're in the car with their kids and you're like, happiness. They might dislike our podcast. Whereas if you mark it explicit, they're like, yeah, give us the happiness.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It makes sense.
That you need to come over and watch Happiness. It's perfect for spooky season.
That's true.
It's Susan Lee recommended. Speaking of Susan Lee, I just got an email the other day that my book shipped. So Susan's book, it comes out next week.
I think so. Yeah, I think it does.
Well, mine has shipped. So I am like, when I got the email, I was like, what already? It's on its way. I cannot wait.
You're gonna gobble that book down.
I'm gonna gobble it up because it's K-drama in a book.
Yes, and anything Susan Lee writes, I'm just gonna say it now, it's gonna be perfect. How could a human being that perfect and wonderful with so many great K-drama suggestions not write a perfect book?
I agree. I am my whole body is ready for this book. So prepare for my screaming when the copy arrives. But now I don't know if we can even talk about this. I'll cut it out if you don't want to, but how about you? I just saw something very exciting in my DMs. Can we talk about that?
Yes. I've been wanting to do commission just some artwork for Sinner's Isle just because why not?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do the extra expense. I don't know if people will even want this. I want to say it was Emily Thied that was like, do it.
Yeah.
She was like, the thing I regret is not doing it either sooner or, right away. Just do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I am. So I've been following this artist, Riley Quinn Art, on Instagram for forever. And she posted not that long ago just this gorgeous, gorgeous piece. And so I was like, fuck it. And so I went onto her website and I got her email and I was like, hey, I don't know if you're doing like commissions but I'd love for you to do something. And she was like, yes. And I was like, I wanted to do, I originally wanted to just do all the characters.
Yeah.
But I was nervous that it would just be too much and too expensive. And so when we started talking about like pricing and all this stuff, she was like, I was like, well, fuck it again. I'm going to do all of like the core group. And so I sent her like little things about each character and she nailed it. And we just saw like the initial sketch of like, what do you think? She freaking nailed it. And I don't know how artists do it. I do not know how they like read something you described and just get it perfectly. And then the chemistry between certain characters, she was like, oh, I just figured, like, it seemed like they would like each other. And I'm like, you are right. So she nailed it.
She nailed it. You say you don't know why. I know why. Because you've crafted these larger than life characters with real, actual souls. And you know what? That's why she's captured it like that. Because you gave her that literary, bookish soul of those characters to work on. And a talented artist can capture a talented writer's characters and bring them to life. Because I've seen, I feel emotional just repicturing it. Like I am literally welling up because it's like those characters just came to life in those early sketches, and it's like exactly how I pictured them, her version, but the soul is the same as how it felt when I read it.
Yes, I just got chills because it's the truth. When I first opened it, I just started bawling because it felt real. Like they were these little souls inside this picture that I, created, and they were living in this artwork. And it's magical. It's so cool. It's so cool to see something that you created here like on the page. And so I suggest to anybody, if you can put some money aside, if that's something you're interested, go for it, because it is magic. It is cool as hell.
It's the best promo as well that you could ever hope for, because those characters, the picture speaks 1,000 words. Yeah, it tells of the book, it excites you for the book, and I just can't wait for everyone to see it.
Thank you for being excited. Yeah, I sent it to Amparo too, because I know she's reading it, and she was just like, she sent me a voice note, and yeah, she was feeling the same way, and I was like, oh, just makes you feel just right. Yes.
You know what? That's what it's about ultimately. Like, and I 100% agree. Like, I remember when Court was doing stuff, she was like, oh, should I get these? Whatever. Do it all, because it all makes it so much more real for you and for your readers. All those little things, it's part of what just hooks into people, so I'm so excited. I feel very blessed to have seen the early version, and so cool how it worked out. And that's just the best way. You've been following her for a while and you were just like, I love your art, can you do some art? And that's the best way, because you're also supporting her art and her career, and
that's it.
Yeah, It's
Yeah,
such a win-win.
it is. And it just felt like another one of those magic moments that we were talking about. I think it was yesterday or whenever it was. It's all these different connections we're making and people you follow and want to support, and it comes back to you. And so I just love all these little things that seem to be happening, in our lives and in the podcast, and magic is in the air.
Me too. And one of those magical things, Ruqayyah, just I'm just like, just well done. I just need to say once again how exceptional you are at like just knowing just good people, like just good people with good souls, shiny, beautiful souls to bring on this podcast and to chat with, because I just like, again, felt like I had known her already. And it's like the first time ever speaking to her, and she was just wonderful.
Yeah. No, Ruqayyah was like, we had a meeting or a Zoom chat a while ago, and she just loves books and
Yeah.
stories, and I just knew like this, she's just badass and like
Yeah.
super cool. And so I've been wanting like to ask her to be on the pod for forever, but was way too nervous. And I don't remember what like prompted us to be like, let's just go for it. But I sent her a DM and she was like, yeah. And I wanted to weep when she said yes.
Yeah, she's so cool, and so cool to have an editor on who's been in the industry and hear about that side of things, because it's something that we don't hear about much. Like, I don't know if I've ever listened to a podcast interview with an editor. Exclusive alert.
Yes, you have been here first on Of the Publishing Persuasion.
The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. To the one person listening, you cheer with us right now.
Now, we should probably read Ruqayyah's bio.
Okay. Yes, we should. We need to get right into Ruqayyah, because honestly, just hearing from an editor, and an editor who is just so warm and like, and human, right? I think that's the main thing. Is we always think agents and editors and people in the publishing world are just like these mythical creatures. But at the end of the day, they're humans. They like K-dramas. They, like they love books. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, the K-drama part.
And I do think I can't even remember who it was now, but very early in this journey, somebody told me that the most important thing I would do would be to network. And more I'm understanding why. It's not this like gated, community that's like, I know it feels like that when you're not networking. That's how it feels. And I think that's why networking is really important when you're trying to break into this industry, because it takes away that gated feeling, and you just realize it's just everyone working together.
One thing I was thinking about when you were talking about is that also when you are networking, to be genuine about it, right? Like you're not just building relationship to get something out of it. And I'm saying that because I want to say I heard Claribel Ortega mention that today, or not today, but
wasn't it on the pod we chat with her about that?
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Yeah,
but I saw her mention something on TikTok the other day of just like, somebody reaching out and asking for things, or, advice.
Yeah.
And then giving it and being there, and then they're gone, because they're building on, or, have done this or that. And so also, we're networking, we're building these relationships, but that's the thing, a relationship, it's back and forth, not just I'm trying to meet this person because they're gonna be able to do this for me. So, it's one of those things of like, which I think is so valuable for this podcast, because I feel like every single time we get off a podcast, you and I are in each other's DMs like, I love them. Oh my gosh, they're great. And then we become their biggest fans and supporters. And so that's why I love what we have going on, because it really does feel like this just love fest.
Yes, 100%. Oh, the time's running out again.
No.
Yeah, that what you've said is so important, and I agree. Like you can't like kind of fabricate that. There has to be real genuine effort, and like it can be so awkward at first. You might need to like nudge yourself into doing these things, but like when you do, the reward from those connections you make, it's so like, and we've talked a lot lately about the unexpected things that pop up, that just out of the blue. And I think that's because we're dealing with people. It's not just a machine. The cogs are not cogs, they're people in there. And so unexpected things can happen. Unexpected friendships can form. It may not be, things can take a different way than you expected it to. But like, if you can embrace that side of things, the whole journey just becomes so full and so like nourishing for the soul or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Well, speaking of nourishing for the soul, let's get Ruqayyah on. But first, let's read a little bit about her. I can read it this time.
Yeah, please.
I have been practicing this, so I'm ready to go. So Ruqayyah says, I am an associate editor at Little Brown Books for young readers looking to acquire picture books, middle grade, and young adult novels. I previously interned at MCPG's Swoon Reads imprint and Simon & Schuster's Aladdin and Simon Pulse imprints. I'm currently pursuing my MS in publishing from Pace University. My favorite books almost always feature compelling and complex characters who linger in my mind after reading. I enjoy everything from realistic contemporary books to gripping fantasies that sweep you away. Sounds right on cue for Ruqayyah. That definitely sounds on point for her.
Let's get her on. I don't know why, but I always feel the need to make my own theme music when it's connecting.
Yes. Hello, Ruqayyah.
Hello. Can you
Hello.
see me? There we go.
There you are.
Hi.
I realized my computer was muted.
Well, good thing you figured it out. I probably wouldn't have, and I would have just panicked and just ran. So,
like, why are their mouths moving but no sound is coming out?
Yeah, you probably want to hear us.
Yeah.
During this time. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I was telling Melanie, say hello. I was telling Melanie right before we got on, I was getting really nervous and getting the sweats, and so so welcome.
That's so funny. I was too, actually. I was like, okay, I've done one podcast before. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I feel like no matter how long I do it, like it's definitely gotten easier, but there's just some days when you're still like, oh my gosh, I'm about to chat to people in the room for like 40 minutes and it hits you the nerves. But I always find once we're here and we always have such incredible guests like yourself on the podcast, then I always feel at ease, and I hope you always wind up feeling at ease as well. So welcome. We are so delighted to have you on. And yeah, Angela's told me all about you, and I'm so thrilled to have you here.
I'm so excited, and I have to say I love the spooky background.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to. As soon as the temperature dropped below 100 degrees,
yep,
I went for it, which, this is as good as it's going to get in California at the moment. So I took my opportunity. I ran with it. Here we are. I am living in the world that I love best, which is all things spooky. So
thank you. I love that.
Yeah. Well, again, welcome to the show. Like, thank you for taking the time out of your night. Let's get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm an associate editor at LBYR. I got my start as an intern at Swoon Reads at Macmillan, which I don't think is an imprint any longer, but they were under Feiwel and Friends. So I interned there for like a year. and then Simon Pulse and Aladdin, which incidentally is also no longer an imprint. I'm like, is it me? So I interned there for a summer, and then I made my way to LBYR in 2018, I think, or 2017. I've been here 4 years. So I've been here ever since. I mostly focus on middle grade and YA. I also assist 2 editors, Alvina Ling and Susan Rich. Susan really only does picture books and graphic novels, which is interesting because I do not do any of those, but it is fun. She does a lot of lovely books. And then Alvina just kind of does a bit of everything.
Yes. Amazing. Where did it all start for you? Did you always want to work with books? Did you always want to be an editor? Tell us a bit about like what got you into it.
So interestingly, there was a time where I wanted to be a writer, but here is what I realized. The first book I tried to write at 16 was actually just like, we can call it a fan fiction, but it's really a plagiarism of my experience. By Lizzie Harrison. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was like my favorite series when I was 12 because I was not allowed to read Gossip Girl. It was like too mature, but I was allowed to read The Click, which was like baby Gossip Girl. And so I was like, I would like to write a book. But like when I think about it, it was like beat for beat The Click. Like she had, I don't know if you've read it, but she had the dog. There was a friend who moved into her house just like it happened in, you know, the books. All I did was change the name and like her dog was white instead of black. That was it. And anytime I tried to write something, I realized like I would just like to tell other people what to do. Like I don't actually want to execute any of this. And I would like try to force my friends. I'd be like, I have this great idea. You should write it. And they're like, why don't you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I just don't really want to. So at some point I realized I don't think I want to be a writer. I would like to try and shape stories. And I did, you know, like an informational interview with an editor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alloy Entertainment. They do, you know, the book packager. Yeah. And so she told me about Pace University, which is where I went. They have a publishing program, and it was all kind of history from there.
Wow.
That is so cool because it's interesting hearing how other people make it into publishing. It always seems like a lot of people are like, I had no idea I wanted to do this and I just sort of fell into it. But it sounds like you were ready for this. You were born to be an editor.
Yeah. I mean, I did have a brief moment where I forgot about like that this was a thing. And I worked at an aviation company for a couple of years. Lovely people, but I did not share their passion for airplanes. So it did not work out.
What I just love that. And what I love is that to me, that's the ultimate thing. What you did is just listen. I know it sounds cheesy, but you just listened to your heart. Like, and your heart was like, I want to be in this field. I want to be in this creative field. But you were like, but not in this way, you know? Yeah, and you've just kind of let that guide you to this point. And that's just, honestly, that's just what I live for. That's that big magic. That's just like, this is what you're meant to be doing. And you listened, and yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I was a little sad when I realized I don't want to be a writer, because I told myself that for so long. I was convinced I did. But then, you know, I was just like, it's only because I'd never heard of these other parts. Because it's not like publishers really, if you don't live in New York, which I grew up in Virginia, they don't really come to your school and tell you about the industry. And so it just like never occurred to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. So after school, I don't know if this is too personal, but like, did you have to move to the city to do editing? I mean, you know, because we hear so much about kind of not the, I was going to say privilege, but it is hard. It's not necessarily easy for so many people to make that journey. Was that something you had to do?
Yeah. So, you know, now it's a lot easier because, you know, the pandemic has changed things. But back then, I say like, I'm so old. 4 years ago, you couldn't really be remote. And so I did try to apply to a few internships while I was in Virginia, and the interviews would go really well. But as soon as they found out I wasn't in New York, like I could feel the interest kind of go away. And so I was lucky in that I went to Pace for grad school. So I had my own money. I had a savings account. I was able to go be an intern and get paid $11 an hour and still survive. I think if it was something where I just graduated college, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it, because I don't come from a, you know, incredibly wealthy background. My mother is a teacher, and so I was really reliant on myself. And so I always try to be aware of that. Like I was really lucky the timing worked out for me financially.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's one of the things about the industry, like there's definitely like you don't get into it for the money. Like,
For sure.
you know, like I wrote for my friend for free for years for her performing arts company. And that was kind of like an in into the industry. And like there's just all these little things that we do to like, and that's why I think that it attracts like passionate, like-minded people, because we all know that like we're here for the love of it. And yeah.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna be broke for a little bit, but you gotta hustle.
Yeah, honestly, and that's probably why a lot of people with wealthier families are the ones who end up making it. But it's, I'm not happy for the pandemic, but I do think that it has forced us to accept people can work remotely, including our interns, which I think hopefully will make it easier to break in.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. The pandemic was awful, but it did open up a lot of things. And Zoom, I honestly had never even probably heard of Zoom until my kids were on it all the time. And it really does, it's opened up this whole world, especially for people who cannot go. And I'm forever grateful for that, because it's like now I get to meet people from Australia, someone talking to someone in New York or wherever. It's really amazing. So I love, I don't love that, but I love that.
Yes.
I just think that those things, they tend to bring out both the very worst and the very best of humanity always, and that's what you're trying to capture, I think, Angela, that like we know it brought out the worst as well, but like, yeah, the good things that it brought out were just magical.
That's it. Well, speaking of magical, I'm sure you have things you're reading all day long, probably at night, on the weekends. What is something that makes a manuscript stand out for you?
This is the hardest question to answer. And I was thinking about it earlier. And the way I think it's, if I feel like I would pick this up in the bookstore personally, I feel like I want to acquire it. And then on the other side, that's not always true, because so in my spare time, what do I read? Kindle Unlimited, I will admit it, like the Zodiac Academy, etc. That is what I do. But I have some books on my list that are like very serious topics, and they're wonderful books, but I don't like to cry. But one of the books I acquired, like when I read it, I couldn't put it down. I stayed up until 3 a.m. reading it. I was so scared another editor would get it before me that I like sent out an email to my boss, and I was like, we need to get this immediately. Like, I was like, I'm usually like, I don't try to be like too pushy or aggressive, but I was like, no, I have to be right now. And when you get that feeling, I feel like that's like when I'm worried that someone else is going to get it before me, that's when I know I have to have this project, which I feel like happens with every project I try to go after, because I always try to play it cool and like, yeah, like whatever, it was fine, I don't care. But then the agent always emails and they're like, we've got other interests, and I'm like, oh god, this is going to get competitive. So I feel like I didn't really answer the question, but I think there's sometimes just a spark, whether it be with the characters or the tropes. Sometimes I read books and I feel like the author crawled into my mind and just created exactly what I've always wanted to read. I feel like I've described that terribly, but it just feels like there's no one specific formula. It's just like when you go to a bookstore and you find your favorite book, but maybe this is like not as polished quite yet, but it's going to be great when it is.
I think you explained it perfectly. It's that thing you just cannot explain. It's that magic inside, and it's good when you're ready to fight for it, which sounds like that's how you work. Let me just go back to Zodiac Academy real fast. So I tried to read Zodiac Academy, but like the bullying stuff, I was like, I can't. But people are obsessed with that series. Did you finish the whole?
So I did not. So here's the funny thing. We have a Kindle Unlimited book club, because I'll say when you work in kids, it's like, yes, I do love these books, but then it's sort of like, I don't want to look at another kid's book. Like I need a palate cleanser, even though I love these books. And so me and a few of my other publishing friends, some at LBYR, some at other publishers, we have like a Kindle Unlimited book club and Wattpad too. I've never read a Wattpad book, but they're going to make me, so we'll see how that goes. So the book club was divided on Zodiac Academy. Myself and a friend in marketing, we were like, okay, like we see why people liked it, but it wasn't for us. But then my intern, who's also in the club, and like one of the other editorial assistants, they read like 4 books in like a week. And they were like, we love this. We want something like this on our list. So I feel like it's one of those things you're either going to connect or you're not.
That sounds right. That sounds right. Yeah, I have to say, like, you do need that palate cleanse of just give me something smutty, give me something I need that a middle grade is not gonna give me.
It's like the escapism book, and I love books where I don't have to think too hard, and I think people view that as an insult, but I'm like, no, those are the best books. Like I'm having a great time, and the author has written it knowing like, yes, you're not going to find the answer to world peace, but you're gonna have fun for 6 hours. Those are my favorite books.
I agree. I especially just in life in general, like a good book that just makes you feel cozy or excited or whatever. I mean, just bring us into this new world. I think we can all relate to that for sure. So we love books.
Yeah. I feel like that also explains like why people say not to try write to the market, because if you're writing what you think is on trend, but like people have just they've read so much about witches and you're writing witches, but there's too much witches. They want that palate cleanser. They want that something else, because even if that is your preferred genre, like I'm obsessed with K-drama, which Angela knows. I watch so much K-drama, but I literally, to the point a few weeks ago, I was like, no, I can't. Everyone I tried to watch, I couldn't watch it anymore. And then I found myself down a very slippery slope of like human intrigue documentaries, like the cult in Illinois or wherever it was, I don't know. And then once Netflix knows, they're like, here's another cult doco, here's another one. So I went down like a 2-month hole of like these documentaries, and now I'm back to K-drama, but I needed it. And now K-drama feels again so fresh and like everything I want.
Exactly. I feel that. And I'm also a K-drama lover, so I totally understand.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, now let's talk a little bit. What's the latest K-drama you've watched?
I just finished My Liberation Notes, which was not for me because it was too sad and realistic. And I was like, I'm here. I don't want a realistic show. I would like fake happiness. But I finished the whole drama. I watched it with my old roommate. We'll use Netflix Party because I actually moved out of the city and she still lives there. And so it's how we keep in touch. So I really liked it, but it made me so sad because I was like, this is too true to life. But a happier one I'm watching is Fight for My Way, which is an older one, but it was the same actress from My Liberation Notes. So I was like, let's see her in a more cheerful role. And so that one's fun.
I haven't seen those ones, but I agree that like some of the older ones are just as good. Like even if it's got kind of that like, I don't know, 70s. I watched Boys Over Flowers a few months ago, and it has this kind of like dorky vibe to it, but I just got so into it in the end. I was like, I'm here for this. I'm living for K-drama.
So I've been watching K-drama since I was in high school. So if you don't know this about Fairfax, it has like which is where I live, Fairfax, Virginia. It has like the 3rd highest concentration of Koreans, I think, outside of America. So that's kind of how I like learned about these things. And the saddest thing to learn growing up was when I realized Lee Min-ho is not actually a good actor. He's like the same person in every role, but it's like, you know what? I'm still going to be there for you. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm still there.
We can look past those things.
Yeah, I was like, I'll close my eyes. It's okay.
What would you say your favorites are? Do you have like favorites that stick out in your mind?
I think have you guys seen Business Proposal?
Yes.
It's like so purposefully cheesy, and I respect that. It made like when I saw the promo for it, I didn't think it was going to be good. I was like, this looks really bad. But then everyone was talking it up. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I was like, wait, this is such a good comfort show. I really like this one. I also like Itaewon Class because I love a good revenge story and rooting for the hero. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
No.
It's on Netflix. And I also like Vincenzo because I love a dark villain, and he is like a mafia killer. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been seeing that one pop up a lot. So maybe Netflix is trying to tell me something. It feels like
it's fun. It's not. I will say it's a K-drama, so he's in the mafia as much as someone in a K. It's no Squid Games. I'll say that.
I love it though. You know, they have their own.
You go into it knowing that, because for the first 4 episodes, I was like, "Are you going to kill anyone?" Once I realized the answer was no, I'm like, okay.
But there's a safety in that. Like, that's what I'm realizing that I think I love about K-drama, because I cannot do horror really. And I've recently just braved Happiness, which is essentially zombies, but it's K-drama zombies. And the way they've done it is such a masterful piece of work that I'm like, okay, I'll just hide it and read the subtitles when it's gory. But yeah, like it basically, like you said, the answer is no, it's not going to get that dark because it's K-drama. But I just love that. And this has just convinced me what I said to Angela the other day, that there's like a next tier of when I meet people, you can be a cool person, but you've just unlocked the next tier of you also like K-drama.
I love that. That whenever I find out someone likes K-dramas or K-pop, I'm like very excited.
Yeah.
We've been finding more and more, it seems like people in the writing world do love K-drama, K-pop, and you know, maybe there's something to it. Maybe we're just, you know, we're very open and love a good story. And they know how to just, the character arcs, like they just know how to get it right. And I kid you not, sometimes I cannot sleep because I just have to finish the damn show.
Yes.
There's been times I've been up at 3 knowing I have to get up at 5, but I don't care. I need to see the kiss.
Yep.
Or almost kiss, and then we pull back and then someone gets hit by a bus. You know, I need it.
No, exactly. And you know what I think it is? Because I've had this like K-drama to publishing pipeline discussion. I think it's that they give the tropes that American shows like take themselves maybe too seriously sometimes, and they won't give you the marriage of convenience, the fake dating, etc. And the K-dramas, they're like, yeah, we'll put 10 different tropes into this show for no reason. I'm like, great, give it to me.
Yes, that is it right there. Because I was thinking that the one I'm watching now is so convenient that all these tropes exist in this one building. And I was like, yeah, but that's why you've got an unputdownable show that I'm binging in spite of squinting through my fingers every now and then, you know. But anyway, we could talk about K-drama all day. Like, back to editing. Tell me, what does a day in the life of an editor look like for you?
So I want to say it varies depending on what's going on. You know, this week, all I did was read because I was trying to finish up edits for a manuscript. But I would say either I'm very busy editing, or no one has sent me their manuscript, and thus I don't have much to do, and it's a very chill week. But you know, we have like certain days. I always say Tuesdays and Thursdays are my meeting heavy days, and when I look at my calendar, I'm kind of like, why did I agree to so many meetings today? And so I would, you know, like I get up, I make my to-do list, I check my email, which never seems to fall under 200 these days, though I feel grateful because apparently mine is on the lighter side. Some people have 1,000 emails, so I'm like, it could be worse. And a lot of it is answering author questions, sending covers, being like, you know, don't forget to yell about this BNN promo. And yeah, going to different meetings. I will say reading submissions, I feel like I thought would be the majority of my job because it's really all I did as an intern, but it's really the smallest part.
Really?
And yeah, so I mean, we get so many and I try to go in order, which can be hard because maybe I'm going in order, but then an agent who just sent me a submission is like, oh, this has got other interests, well, then obviously I've got to then put that down and read that one to try and, stay in the race. And so that's kind of what makes it harder for that to be the biggest part of your job, is that you can't really control what you're reading and when. And so I would say I try to read one a week, but we do get I don't get that. I get 5 a week full novels. So it makes it kind of hard to do that.
Yeah.
What is something you wish writers knew about editors?
I would say that we don't control a lot of the process, I think, because a lot of the times, a lot of questions I get, often I don't have the answer to, or I don't really have the ability to make that decision, and neither does my boss. In terms of an offer, if it were just up to me, the amount of books that would be on our list, but there's so many people I have to go through before. So, an editor can love a book so much, but if the team isn't in support, you might not get to buy it. And so I always if it's ever happened where I've had to pass on something I really loved, I always make sure the author knows, I really loved this, and I hope they know that's true. It's, I'm not saying this to spare your feelings. I really would have acquired it if I could have. So I think that's what I'd like them to know, is how little control we have, though it might seem like it's just sort of we can say yes or no.
Yeah.
I think that's really great to know. Yeah, you just, in my head, I just see editors legs up on the table. They're cutting deals left and right. Let's get them. I don't know why. I think it's maybe movies and television have just put this I don't know what in my head. But it's good to know. I mean, not good to know, but it is something that we should know as writers. Is it's not necessarily always because the book isn't good or right. There's other factors that are happening simultaneously.
Definitely. And I will say each house is different. We have an acquisitions meeting, but I know some places it's up to the editor and their publisher, for example. So it depends on where you go, but it never is just one person. Although I did hear that apparently in the UK, the editors just acquire what they want, which sounds very wild to me, but so don't take my word on it 100%. This is just hearsay.
It's interesting. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you say saying no is the hardest part, or what is the hardest part of being an editor for you?
I really do think saying no, because, especially when I started, I was very earnest about this is someone's dream. I've got to read every single page of this and think really hard about it, even before I could acquire it, and was just, giving my opinion to my boss. And, I've never taken that lightly, because I know I'm just reading this, but someone worked really, really hard on this. And I always kind of love when I know we're going to have to say no, and the editor's we've got an offer. I'm great. I'm genuinely so happy for you. So I would say that's the hardest part, because you never want to say no, but you can also only acquire so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. What would you say is your favorite part of this, being an editor?
I really love working with debuts, because they're always so excited, and it is so nice to see. One of my authors today, she's a debut. She emailed me a video of her receiving her ARCs. She did not post it because her 7-year-old filmed it. Didn't do the best job. She filmed a red truck instead of, her mother the whole time. And then at some point she got bored and put the camera down. But things like that just make me so happy. I'm kind of I think you should post this video on Instagram anyway. It's very charming.
Yes. We live for the honest moments. That's
exactly. It's little moments like that I really love. I think it's so fun to see someone, get excited about their cover, about the pre-order going out, seeing it at the store the first time. I think you both follow me on Instagram. I literally share, I'm this might as well be a work Instagram. I'm sure my non-publishing friends are why does she keep posting about these books? We don't care. That is my favorite part.
At some point, the non-publishing friends, I used to have split accounts where I'd post, bookish stuff and then personal stuff. And at some point I was you know what? Too bad. I can't manage both. The other one's gone. You're just going to have to listen to all about the podcast and books and everything.
it works, because I have found out some of them go and buy these books, like not a huge number, maybe one or two, but I'm like, you know what, it counts. I sold that book.
Yeah.
Yes, it does count. It absolutely does count. And it's funny, I tried to keep it separate too, like separate Instagram, but it seemed, and because I didn't want my family following me. Like, how embarrassing. But now they all do. They know everything. My grandma lets me know I cuss too much. It's like, I tried to stay away, but she found me. And, it's like my kids, their friends follow me, but I guess you just.
But I don't know how old your kids are, but they'll probably be your readers one day anyway, so.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. I got to get them into reading a little more. My daughter's reading now. I mean, she's 15. She can read, but I mean, she's reading books, and enjoying.
Well,
I got what you meant.
Yeah.
I didn't love reading growing up either, actually. So you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's interesting, right? I wasn't a huge reader as a child. I mean, whatever the school was giving, and like Boxcar Children, Goosebumps, I ate that up. But like, I wasn't just out there reading, I was in the dirt or wherever I was, who knows, but
with the goats out in the field.
Yeah, just frolicking.
I wonder if some of that comes down to like the books and the influences, because I wonder if I would have been a big reader either if I had a couple people. I remember my grade 2 teacher in particular. She was such a major bookworm, and our class was in the library, and she would read, instead of class, she would take out Narnia and she'd read to us for a full class length. And I think that like eventually when I was like forced to sit there and just listen for this whole time, you start to get immersed in the story. You start to fall in love. But yeah, sometimes I do wonder if it takes those certain people who instill the love of it in you.
I hope so. And yeah. I love my daughter has, she's read a few books of friends of mine on Instagram or wherever. And it's really fun that I'm like, I actually know them. So if you need to like, chat with them, I can, hook you up. And it's been really fun. I mean, she's been fangirling a little, which is adorable. But I won't tell her that I told you guys that. We'll just keep that. But I'm seeing that our time is starting to dwindle, which is wild. But like, I understand you guys in publishing, editors in particular, I mean, you have such intense jobs, you're reading constantly. How do you balance life with business?
Yeah, I think, it's hard when your job is also your hobby. And so I'm like, you feel like I'm thinking about books 24/7. It took a while, but what I learned is not just setting boundaries with my job, but with myself, and also letting myself know it's okay not to always hit the deadline. Because one thing that I would always feel so guilty is if I was even a day late to get an author an edit letter, like, oh my God, I would think about it all day. Like, oh God, like I told her I would get it to her the 16th, it's the 17th. And that would torture me. But then, I was like, we're all trying our best. And they're probably a little relieved to get an extra week anyway.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of started to learn to forgive myself if it means I have to spend the whole weekend editing. I'm like, maybe it's just better to say, hey, I'm going to need an extra week, but of course you can have an extra week as well. And also padding our deadline. If the manuscript is really due October 1st, then maybe we build the schedule to aim for September 1st, because we know we're both going to turn something in late at some point. So I think it's really forgiving yourself and setting boundaries with yourself, not just with the job. Because I think that's the part that people forget is like, hey, you sometimes overstep with yourself or stretch yourself too thin.
Yeah. I love that so much. And that's it right there. Like, and I think for those of us who are wired that way, to like that panic to meet the deadline, giving yourself the same grace you would give someone else, that's the changer there. Because you're like, hey, I wouldn't be mad if it happened with someone else, so why would I like crucify myself over it, and just cutting each other all a bit more slack as a general.
Right. Exactly. And you know, one good advice another editor here gave me, she's like, we love books, but we have to remember we don't work at the ER. Like, no one will die if you miss this deadline. It's gonna be okay.
I love that so much.
It's like simple advice, but you're like, oh, I guess you're right. Something about that is so intense. Like everything's like, oh, I gotta get it. And it's interesting you say that, you know, this is also a hobby because it's the truth. I find I was a reader first and then became a writer. And now, you know, now we have the pod, we have all these things going on. Like my whole life is enveloped with bookish things, which I love. However, there are times where you should probably step aside from those things and enjoy a K-drama, although I'm often thinking, how can I add that into my book, right? So what do you do for fun outside of publishing? How do you do that? How do you get outside?
You know what? It does relate to K-dramas. I love K-pop, and I will tell you this. I used to be a little judgy about like fan events and like these cup sleeves. And then like, you know what? One day I had this epiphany where I was like, stop being a hater and just have fun. So I was like, I'm going to go to one of these K-pop events like in person. And so I went and I was like, this is such fun. Shame on me for judging before and thinking like, oh, these are the very intense fans. I don't want to be there. So me and my friends, incidentally, all in publishing, that is what we do. We like go to these cup sleeve events. They give you freebies and you get like boba tea and you meet other people. It's very low key, but it's very fun. And then what do we spend our money on? Going to K-pop concerts across the country. My friend Emily, she works at Harper. I feel like every week she's at a new K-pop concert, but she's like, you know what? I live with my parents. I'm saving money. I'm going to do what I want. And I'm like, you go, girl. I love that for you.
Nice. I am obscenely jealous. That sounds amazing.
And you know what? I fully agree with this. You know what? You have to kind of like not take yourself too seriously to properly enjoy this stuff. Because like I've mentioned this last episode, I think that like I used to be kind of when I was younger into like, you know, like more emo bands and like it had to be more serious and about the world. And like, so sometimes you felt like childish or silly for just like letting go. And I wouldn't have listened to K-pop when I was younger because I was like, oh, it's like this. But then like when you actually stop taking yourself too seriously and realize you can laugh at most things in life, you realize that BTS is literally the universe's gift to mankind, you know?
Yes.
And
I just moved, so I don't have this shelf, but literally I have a BTS shelf that usually is behind me. I've got this little background because it's just a bunch of boxes right now. But
yes,
Amazing. A kindred spirit, I can tell.
And like you wouldn't have done it in high school, but I've let go.
Yeah, and it's so liberating. And I feel like I find myself the older, like I'm embracing getting older and older because every year I give less shits about what people think about me and I just do what I want. And it's so wonderful.
And the best part is you have adult money to do it now and no curfew.
Well, not quite, but we're getting there. But yes, I can choose what I want to do with it. Exactly. I'll buy that pizza. Because that's usually where my money goes.
Pizza. That's good. I stand that. I agree. I think that's good. That's hilarious. What advice would you give to people who are possibly looking into becoming an editor?
What I would say is I think you should not put all your eggs in one basket. One thing that I've noticed with a lot of people who want to get into the industry is they don't seem to know about sales, marketing, you know, publicity. And I think editorial is great, but some people, you know, they end up doing it, not getting an editorial positions, like maybe I've gotten a publicity assistant position, but this isn't what I wanted. I'll do it for a year and switch to editorial. And next thing they know, it's like 10 years later and they're the director of publicity. So it's like, don't assume that this is the only thing you'll enjoy. Like personally, I had applied to so many different departments. I only ever got editorial offers. So I was like, this is a sign, but I think I would have had a lot of fun on like digital marketing, being on TikTok and Instagram. So I would say, try to get internships in different places. I see our time is running out, so I'll stop there.
I know. I don't know how the time where it's gone. I could see you on TikTok. I could see you thriving there.
100%.
I have a feeling that you need to. I mean, I know you're on TikTok, but I think you need to expand and become a star. I could see it
Yeah. Well, me and my fellow editor Mishma, we do have an editor TikTok. We've made a total of 1 post. It's called 2 Kidlit Editors. Maybe we'll post more.
Please do. What is it called again?
2 Kidlit Editors. It has a picture of Karen from Mean Girls. That's how you'll know it's us.
Oh, I love that. Wow, I see, like, we are down to the last minute of our time, and we've just had such a great time having you on. Thank you for joining us. Our time's evaporated, but yeah, we'll have to have you back on again.
For sure. And thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
It has. Thank you so much for taking the time. You have no idea how excited Melanie and I have been to talk to you. So, yeah, we were both sweating, probably me a little more. So thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited and thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.